I've got 6 o'clock. So welcome everyone to the March 13th, 2024 meeting of the Newcastle Community Activities Commission. This is our monthly regular meeting. And just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. So per state law, we need to let everybody know that. If there's any objections, you can depart the meeting now. It is time for a call to order. So, and the flag salute. So let's do the flag salute. If everyone could please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And just a reminder, this meeting, it again is being recorded and can be viewed on the city's YouTube channel in a later date. So, Event and Recreation Coordinator Amy, would you please do the roll call?
Certainly. Thank you, Vice Chair Flash. All right. Commissioner Forsberg.
Present.
Commissioner Van Atta. Commissioner Lee.
Present.
Commissioner D'Souza.
Present.
Commissioner Kretzinger.
Present.
Vice Chair Flash.
Present.
And Chair Sticks is excused.
Thank you. All right, agenda approval. I presume, I hope that everybody's had a chance to look at the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Seeing no changes, we will approve the agenda as presented. Approval of minutes. So tonight we're approving 2 months worth of minutes. So we have our January minutes, which were not presented at the last meeting, and our February minutes. So does anybody have any objections or changes to those minutes as presented? Can I get a motion to approve them?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
And do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, the minutes have been approved. Do we have any public comment? Anybody online?
We do not, and we do not have online comment for our CAC meetings.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, commissioners' comments. We'll just go down the line. Commissioner Kretzenberg.
No comments.
Shelley?
No comments.
I had a great time at the volunteer fair on Saturday at the library. Met lots of people, saw lots of people. It was a good time. It was really very pleasantly surprised by the number of people that came through. Not only our table, but the whole thing.
No comment.
No comment from me either.
And the only thing I want to state is looking forward to spring. Thank you, everyone, for your commitment to volunteerism in Newcastle and creating a great community. And then lastly, this evening, the Planning Commission had an open house, or is having an open house right now. And please, if you have not provided any input on the comp plan and their process that they're going through right now, please make sure to get with them at a later date as they are presenting things to the community. So things are moving along quite nicely from that process. Okay, community reports. The Events and Recreation Coordinator report.
Alrighty. shorter this time around as we're in between lots of things going on and we have a number of things on our agenda today. Just wanted to also thank Allison. Allison mentioned that she was at the volunteer fair on Saturday. Thank you for helping us out at the city table. It was, I thought, really nicely attended. It was a great group. There were 16 organizations from Newcastle and the greater Newcastle area. And I do want to give a special thanks to Vicki Heck for the record, because she was an awesome partner to work with and did a lot of work behind the scenes making this event happen. I'd also like to mention that Newcastle Police Department is hosting a Business Crime Watch meeting at the Coleman on Tuesday, March 6th at 3 p.m. And that's geared towards business managers and owners. So please spread the word. There is also a neighborhood block watch meeting being held at City Hall on Wednesday, March 27th at 7 p.m. If you have any questions, contact Detective Corey Martin. His email is Martin at kingcounty.gov. If you are a business interested in going to the Business Crime Watch meeting, you do need to register with Detective Martin ahead of time. I'd also like to mention that the next Sundays with a Cop is being held on Sunday, April 7th at noon at Foshsey Barrel. So if you missed the March 10th one, there is another one coming up. I won't go into too much detail. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder this month around, but there's some stuff going on at the cemetery on Saturday, March 30th, which I'm sure we'll hear about soon. And finally, I'd like to mention another event is the spring recycling event on Saturday, April 6th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Hazelwood Elementary School. The information about what can and cannot be recycled that day is up on our website and also on our Facebook page. Programs. We have Skyhawk Sports Programming is returning to Lake Bourne Park this spring and summer. The spring season is open for registration. That link is going out this week in our newsletter and on our social media. We're going to have basketball, soccer, and tennis. We are also offering a new preschool program called Soccer Tots, and that will be held at Donegal Park. And then finally, I'd also like to make a plug for the Comprehensive Plan Open House. It's open until 8 o'clock at Hazelwood, and there is pizza. So should you want to grab a bite to eat after this meeting, please stop on by. They'd love to hear from you. Any questions about anything that I mentioned this evening? Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you very much. I heard a comment to try and wrap up early so we can all get pizza, so we'll do our best. Okay, so community groups. Connie, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, as usual, the Newcastle Library has quite a few exciting events throughout the month, so we'll have the full list in the minutes, but I did want to highlight one unique event that's coming up on March 23rd. It's called Pause with a Cause. So from 2 to 3:30, they'll have a painting party for kids aged 6 to 12, and then from 4 to 5:30 for ages 13 and older, where you can paint a portrait of a shelter pet to help the animals be seen outside of cages and promote adoption. So just wanted to highlight that one. Thanks.
Commissioner Van Noo.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Commissioner Lee.
Trails, Newcastle Trails is soliciting support for the use of ARPA funds for the Lake Bourne Promenade. They are requesting that people please email City Council and City staff to support their effort.
No new updates for the Y except for the Healthy Kids Day, which is still on April 20th.
Next week on the 21st, the Chamber is hosting an after hours from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Coleman. So that will be lovely. A purchase of a ticket gets snacks and drinks that will be provided especially for that event. So I recommend it because everything's good at the Coleman, always, all the time. And then the Historical Society, I just want to remind everybody that we are really lucky to have such a robust and involved historical society here in our little town of Newcastle, and they are having the first of several work parties on the 30th of March from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it's a really great way to get out and get back out in nature and also help your community and learn a little bit about the cemetery, which isn't always open. And I know they could use your help. So please put that on your calendar, and you don't have to be there for the whole time, but if you can show up and help them out, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And then the Arts Council. So we have our youth art exhibition up at the Newcastle Library, and there are 29 artists represented, 16 schools, 12 grades, and Newcastle and 5 surrounding cities are all represented at that exhibition. There's a People's Choice Award, so you can go in and vote for your favorite piece or pieces of the show, and I want to thank BECU, King County Library System, Newcastle Library Branch, Encompass Fine Arts, AL Art Studio, Friends of Newcastle Library, Youth Theater Northwest, Mod Pizza, Blazing Onions, Frosty Barrel, For Culture, Artswa, National Endowment for the Arts, City of Newcastle, and Newcastle Arts Council for supporting that specific activity and providing items for prize packages for the winners of that particular activity again. We have a long list of events that are happening on a monthly basis, most of them in partnership with the library, and as always, we thank the library for their continued partnership in that effort. And then lastly, we're planning for a film series. We did a film series back pre-pandemic, and so we're making efforts to bring that back this year. We still have our little art gallery, free little art gallery at City Hall, so please go by and enjoy that. Don't feel like you have to leave something. If you want to just take something, that's fine too. There are plenty of people that leave items there, and they just relish in the enjoyment of knowing that their piece of art will end up someplace great. And then we're also collecting plastic bottle tops for a new recycled materials mural. So the one we had at Lakeborn Park unfortunately fell apart and had to be taken down, and so we're collecting materials to redo something similar, hopefully this summer. So you can drop off plastic bottle caps and tops and such at City Hall during regular business hours. And hopefully we'll have enough items to do another mural. The more color, the better. So we need colorful stuff. And that's it from the Arts Council. Okay. Okay, on to general business. So the first item on here is the public art budget. Last year in 2023, there was some money in the public art budget, or in the budget, the city had a City of Newcastle budget for art, and we did a utility box wrap that now sits on the corner of Newcastle Way and Coal Creek Parkway, which is a great item that kind of welcomes us to the city. So that was done in partnership with Davi of the city, the Newcastle Arts Council, and then there was representatives on the committee that from the Newcastle Trails and as well as the Historical Society that helped with working with the artist on the design of that and doing an artist call. There is also dollars in the budget this year for public art, and we'd like to propose that. I would like to propose that the CAC make the recommendation that the city spend those dollars also on another utility wrap. That would be, or a utility box art. It may not necessarily be a utility wrap, but it could be a painted utility box, so yet to be determined. But I would like this body to make the recommendation to the city that we do that. So with that said, if somebody could basically propose and then second the following, if we want to do that, or if there's any discussion in terms of what we want to do with those dollars, then that's certainly open to discussion as well.
Do we have a utility box in mind already?
So we had 2 or 3 of them picked out last year. They were all along Coal Creek Parkway. So it would probably be built along Coal Creek Parkway. And some of that is going to depend on whether we end up doing a wrap or we end up doing something painted, because the painted ones are less expensive than the wrapped ones, but the wrapped ones last longer. So yet to be determined. But if you have a suggestion in mind, then we would certainly be open to that. Yeah. I think along Coal Creek Parkway gets the most, highest visibility. Any other thoughts?
I motion that we propose that the city spend the public art budget on another utility box, and determine what the best method is for that.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, cool, thank you. And again, it's just a recommendation from this body, but it does have some weight with the city, so. Okay, moving on. Third spaces. So as part of our work plan for 2024, one of the items on there was to identify and the third spaces in Newcastle. And so I want to kick that off with, first of all, a discussion, and then second of all, with some comments, discussion, and then a proposal in terms of how we approach this. So I met with Scott Pingle a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, and kind of came up with what I thought was a plan to approach this. So I want to put that forth and ask if there's any comments and see if there's any suggestions on another approach or add to that or whatever. So the plan that we came up with was basically to come up with a list or develop a list that we would all have input into. First of all the third spaces that are not only in Newcastle, but in the surrounding Newcastle area. And this should be essentially really an all-encompassing list. So anything where anybody can gather could be considered a third space. So whether that's a park, whether that's private or public, whether that's indoor, outdoor, it doesn't really matter. It should go on the list. And then once the list will have various criteria on it, or various data points on it, like indoor, outdoor, public, private, how big it is, where it's located, intended use. And so these are items that we'll put on the list, but then we'll refine as we go through it. Once we have that list, and we'll collect it over a couple of month period, then we can sit down and start to look at whether there are any holes in the inventory that we have. So whether we missed anything, or if there's things that are missing that the community needs or is missing. And at that point, we may go out to the community and ask for input, but yet to be determined. But the first thing is just basically to get an inventory. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Just wanted to clarify, so thoughts on the list, or should we start sharing a list now?
Thoughts on the process?
Oh, okay. Sounds good to me.
I'd like to see the list when we're putting out the attributes, not just to be attributes of existing spaces, but attributes that we would look for in a space. and then whether or not the existing spaces meet those attributes.
Okay.
So that we can quickly identify if there is an existing space that we're not aware of that meets the role. Like, an attribute could be generates revenue for the city, or, can be used in inclement weather, or it doesn't have to be that specific. But do you see what I'm saying? So that we're not just identifying existing attributes, but we're also identifying how the things that we have do or don't fulfill. Because maybe we have a blind spot and we think we need a third space we don't need, which I think is unlikely. But if we put all the things we want on there, then we can identify if we have those things or not.
Kim, did you have a comment?
Well, an interesting launch point might be I through helping somebody do some planning for an event, I stumbled on a University of Washington matrix that they have of all of their available spaces at the University of Washington, right? So imagine the entire campus and all of the properties they own and all the things are listed, and it's the number of people it holds, whether or not there's electricity, whether or not it can be used after hours. Like it really had, it was whether or not alcohol could be served. It was really a comprehensive list. And it might be a place just to look to see like, what were some of those to get started? What are some of those things? And then yes, for us to kind of be thinking like, well, what's our dream state, right? What would we want? And then you could have all of those there and you can check them off as you go, or you find things that fit. And then people can use that spreadsheet to sort and filter.
Is that something you could share? Do you have that available?
Yeah, it's public domain. It's just on the UW's website, so I can share that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So would it make sense to have a spreadsheet that has existing spaces and then a second tab essentially that has start to compile that list of things that we would like to see, or that we.
In the UW's, it was the spaces down. The spaces were, in the columns.
Yep.
And the attributes were the rows. And so
Okay.
it was just an X or the specific details like capacity would just be
Got it.
the numbers
Got it.
or the range for capacity. And then, things like indoor, outdoor, it was, would say indoor, outdoor, whatever.
Right.
So that all those features were across the top so that you didn't have to toggle between.
Between spread. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you're kind of envisioning?
That is what I'm envisioning, because that also allows you to, if you were to pull up this spreadsheet, let's say we put it all together, and then somehow it could even be in the public domain on the city website or something. You could go to that spreadsheet, and you could sort, right?
Right.
For whatever you might be looking for, that you might not be aware of, that's around here. That gives people a resource that they don't already have for what's around here, which would be real nice.
Right.
And then secondly, I would like our aspirational qualities of a perfect third space to be on there so that we are identifying if those exist in our area and we aren't aware. And if they don't exist, then that becomes very obvious very quickly. And we can see what third spaces in our area we have that are like approaching what we would like to have.
Right.
Or if we're just like wildly far away from what we would like to have. So I would start by just listing spaces, putting the attributes that they have, and then thinking, well, what does this not have that I would want a third space? Like if I was just doing it by myself right now, that's what I would be doing. And then getting input and saying, well, there's only covered space for like this many people. It's technically outdoors even though there's covered space, like it's not heated. So
Right.
yeah, so I would tackle it to make it not too cumbersome in the beginning by just listing spaces that exist and their attributes, but then after that adding on other attributes that we maybe notice don't exist that we would like to have, and seeing if we identify spaces like that.
Okay.
This is all just off the top of my head, but that's,
Yeah, it's mapping backwards.
yeah, mapping backwards.
This is what we want.
This is what we want. This is what we have.
Right.
Is there
Right.
something we weren't aware of that's amazing that we have access to? Awesome.
Right.
If not, then let's start talking about how would we get to the
Yeah.
to the ultimate ideal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the meantime, we provide a resource for people to find other third spaces that are useful for whatever version of an event or something that they're envisioning.
Okay. So why don't I start a spreadsheet? It is 100% collaborative. So if it'll just be a start, and anybody can go in, and everybody will have access to it on the SharePoint site. I'll provide the link, and you can go ahead and adjust the columns or do whatever you need to do or want to do, and we can start to list all the attributes of existing space, and then as needed we can add additional columns off to the side. In the end, we'll probably have to go back and make sure that if an item was added on there at one point, that we make sure to capture all the attributes. That this may have additional attributes that somebody has added in later. But at least we'll get it started. We'll give it a couple of months, and if you guys could go in and as you're traveling around town or doing whatever and you notice that, a space needs to be added on there, please do add it on there, and let's make sure we get as a comprehensive a list as possible. But I will start that in the next couple of days, and then so be on the lookout for that, and there'll be an email that'll come out. And to the point, the idea is to get an inventory, and then that'll be the starting point. We can provide that as a resource, but then we can also decide what we're missing. Okay, any other questions on that piece? All right. 30th anniversary.
'30th anniversary. We have sent out the first initial request for a picture and a little background info for the 30 key players, and we've received some responses, so we'll be reviewing those and then getting the initial ones out to the public soon and continuing down the list. If anybody is watching, this is not something that we just select on our own, and if you think there's someone in our community that should be honored, please email the Community Activities Commission and let us know who it is and what you think or what you've seen their contribution to the community to be, and some contact info for them should we choose to reach out to them. And so that's moving along, and then there will be a final presentation of all 30 at Newcastle Days. That's that big celebration in September. So that's where we are with that. Speaking of Newcastle Days, I think a lot of things that we do for the 30th anniversary will take place at that. We are still in conceptual mode for a lot of those things. I know Nathan has already reached out to Costco about the giant cake, so that's pretty rad because that's beyond conceptual stages. That's like in the works. And I know we've thrown out other ideas here before, so I would love to put to you guys any other wonderful ideas that you would like to share about how we could celebrate the city of Newcastle other than what we've discussed, or ways that we could call it out at Newcastle Days, because I would love to then take those and decide on a few and make them action items that we move forward on. One of the things we had talked about was rewarding the booths that display at Newcastle Days for, whoever's the most festive and celebratory of the 30th anniversary. And that one would just need us to develop a criteria and then let them know so they could be planning for that. Aside from that, are there any other super fun ideas?
I don't have a super fun idea, but I would like to ask if we have an official theme name for our festivities.
That's a great question. We do not yet, as far as I know. Has this been batted around within city circles that you know of? Okay. So no. I played around with, like, I looked up some things about 30th anniversaries, and traditionally, like, the color was green and the gemstone was pearl. So we could we could take that and run with that as like kind of a springboard for a theme, which I think is a great place to start and makes some things easy. But yeah, a theme would be besides just 30th anniversary, because most of the time when we as human beings turn 30, we get a lot of black and over the hill, and that's not what we're really going to go for here.
So I know in Newcastle Days, we ask the vendors to provide something to hand out. Is there a way that we could ask them to do something with the number 30 at their booths?
We can make that part of whatever we decide to write up for the businesses to hand out as like criteria. Yeah, use of the number 30. Like, we need to flesh it out. Who wants to flesh it out with me? I'm not making it up all on my own. Yes. All right, Shelley and I are gonna flesh out what I guess you could call it a rubric, but it's not a rubric, right? Similar though to that about to hand out to the businesses. And then when you go around and talk to them, you can tell them about it, and you'll have something to give them and be like, it won't be so nebulous, right? Like, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. Be super festive, because that's very nebulous. It'd be like, be super festive, this is how.
Yeah, or it doesn't even necessarily need to be at Newcastle Days, but as we could ask them to do something during the year that to represent the number 30, right? So it's 30% discount on a certain day, or, you know.
Both. They can decorate their booths and do 30% discounts, or do like a treasure hunt type thing.
Yeah.
Treasure hunt of 30 items. You heard that. I see you over there thinking of things you can do, like pumpkins in the park, because that would be pretty awesome if we could, and it should be able to be done fairly in a budget friendly way.
As long as we go plastic this year, I think we're good, because the crows would eat away our pumpkin budget.
I was thinking about like a 30-mile, walking or hiking challenge. So just, picking a time frame and saying, try to walk 30 miles, track your mileage during this period of time. And
It's a great idea. We could get trails in on that.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Does the city have pictures of a certain area over the last 30 years?
We have a lot of pictures.
So we
Whether or
could do-
not that particular thing exists, I don't know offhand, but I know who we can ask.
Okay, so we could do some sort of little collage of,
I'm hopeful that we could find something.
yeah, okay. And then we could go back to 1930 or something like that. Or, 30 years prior to the forming of the city.
just one more thought. We've done like restaurant week kind of things in the past, and I like it used to be for Seattle Restaurant Week. Haven't looked in a couple of years, but it used to be like 3 courses for $30. I'm not under any foolish assumption that could happen anymore with a restaurant, but could they offer something for $30, whether it's a 3-course meal or something, whatever they could choose what their offering might be. But
Yeah. Or 2 meals for $30 would be,
I don't think that could happen anymore, but that's fun to think about. Those were the good old days.
yeah.
Pre-inflation days.
Yeah. But yes, something.
Yeah,
that-
or meal and a drink for, $30,
Yes,
or whatever,
yeah.
something like that, yeah. And I wouldn't just necessarily get the restaurants involved too, but say the grocery stores may do some one-off thing, Or get 2 haircuts for $30 or,
There are no lady haircuts for $30.
or whatever, I don't know. One, yeah.
During the pandemic, it was 40.
Okay, so this is a good list. And I'm happy to take some of these and start fleshing them out. But Charlie's going to help me with making up a list of things that you can give out to the businesses for how to show up at Newcastle Days if you have a booth, right? And be super festive suggestions. But who wants to work on some of these other things? Yeah, I don't have to be involved in all of them. You guys want to coordinate the 30-mile thing and pick a 30 miles in 30 days or something or whatever?
Are we focusing stuff like this on on summer or on the end of summer, or just like when does it all start for us?
I would think the walking thing is going to get more traction when the weather gets nice, so I'd say focus that in the late spring or the summer. Some of these other things, though, restaurants offering grocery store stuff, I can team up with somebody else and go start talking to them about doing that now, like in the month of March or April, because now it is almost April. $30, like a drink and a meal for $30.
Are we going to plan any sort of announcement? Here we are in the 30th anniversary year, and we have some things coming up.
We could certainly do that. If we have a schedule of things happening, absolutely.
I think that might be a nice way to just kind of introduce it to people for people to be on the lookout for ideas, suggestions, whatever.
So Amy, let's you and I circle back about an ideal date to release the announcement with at least one hard date attached to it so that they have something to do and then they can follow along from there.
Or maybe that could coincide with the first honorees.
That seems like a very good weaving it all together.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to throw this little thought out too. Some of us have lived here, well, most of us have lived here for a good long while. Some of us have lived here for quite a while. What about the thought of inviting people to share pictures of their neighborhood, either at Newcastle inception or pre-Newcastle inception? Sometimes when I think of the neighborhoods around here in 1991 or 92, and then I think of what our town looks like now, it's just shocking to me. And not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
just in a way. And it might be fun for people to see the differences.
Newcastle Elementary when it was a horse pasture, and then
Or
before after.
Histon when it was Hazel Elementary or Hazelwood Elementary.
Yeah.
Or things like that. Just all little areas of our town, and because it has grown so much. It's grown so much.
Okay, this might be ridiculous and maybe too big, but at my high school, I went to a smaller high school, and they always in the yearbook would have a picture of the people who had been there since kindergarten, like K through 12. That was the picture. So could you invite to Lake Bourne or whatever, if you've lived here for 30 years, come on down
That would be a fun thing to do.
and meet.
People would.
Yeah, re-engage
Yeah.
with people that you might not have seen since your kids were in school or your whatever. Just even doing it at one of the summer picnics or not summer concerts or whenever the people might naturally already be getting together. Might be kind of fun.
Yeah,
Whoever's
if our
there.
kids don't want to do a high school reunion, we can just do a parents reunion.
See?
I think that's a great idea. I love the idea of maybe piggybacking on the summer concerts. We could just because we could also put a pop-up tent and like
Meet here.
yeah, 30th anniversary. Meet here. Be excited about it. Mm-hmm. Bring picture and if you have old pictures, bring them along. Or email them to us and we'll put them in a slideshow and play it at Newcastle Days somewhere at the city booth or whatever.
So it sounds like there are a number of ideas coming out, a number of ideas that the commission are pretty excited about. So would it make sense for me to meet with one or more of the folks on this particular subcommittee and talk about the ways that staff can support you in these efforts?
Yes, please.
Okay, so why don't you reach out to me with some times that might work, and we can go from there.
Sounds good. I'll do that.
Anything else on that topic?
That's all from me. So
Okay.
unless anybody else has some wonderful ideas to add to this list, I think we can close this topic for the time being.
Okay. Keep the ideas flowing. That was great. All right, Commissioner Van Atta.
Okay.
Recipe of the month.
Yeah, recipe of the month. So Connie and Shelly and I had a chance to meet to kind of talk about our recipe of the month idea and our, kind of what our objectives were with that and how we want it to hopefully evolve. And our plan is to have a recipe a month that would be featured. So we all figured we would lead, right? Because we each have a recipe and a story connected to it that we can share that we think would have broad enough appeal to share with the broader audience. And we're hoping we could share that through newsletter and social media. And then we are hopeful then that will become people who are interested in that. People can, of course, just make it, comment, do whatever through the normal social media channels. We might even provide them with an email address if you want to reach out to someone or do whatever. But then we're also going to promote a What's Cookin' Newcastle Facebook group. So then that we hope would be just a community-owned affinity group where people can not only talk about the recipe of the month, but also then just share good recipes, quick snacks, their tried and true fast dinner when you have to be at a meeting at 6 o'clock. Whatever it might be, but just a place for people who like to talk about food, like to share recipes and ideas. People who are stumped on what to eat for dinner can share and support, and that would be, we would open it. Wouldn't just be city owned. Obviously, that's just they said an affinity group, just like all the other Newcastle social groups there are out there, and it would be managed by whoever wants to be admins. And like I said, that's open season. Anybody can talk about it and share. And then we hope that we would solicit, since we have a few months worth of content, and I know I can churn out more, Connie, we all can churn out more, but we would solicit people's recipe ideas. So then it would switch from, again, our focus to community focus and getting stories and recipes from the community that then would be featured as the recipe of the month and shared and open for everybody to enjoy. Any thoughts, questions, concerns?
I was just gonna say, I don't know if we still have the question of how far ahead of time do we need to get content to you to get it into the newsletter?
So the newsletter goes out on the Friday before every council meeting. So for instance, in March, we have 3 newsletters going out, whereas in other months, there may only be 1 newsletter going out. So you want to pay attention to council's schedule. Generally, if I get it even the day before it goes out, that's plenty of time for me to get it into format and get it out online for our newsletter, and then I can pick it up in social media. One thing to consider are our 2 community magazines. They do run recipes. Greet Newcastle and Newport Hills has a deadline of the 20th of the month for the month after. So March 20th deadline coming up is for the May issue. And it usually comes out to mailboxes the last week in April. Not that you have to be like coordinated for when it goes online, but that's another way to get visibility. In Newcastle Living, the deadline is the 10th of the month for the following month, so March 10th for the April issue. And submissions are, you can make submissions for considerations. You might want to reach out to each of the publishers to see if they'd be happy to develop a relationship for these recipes to jumpstart the efforts. But it reaches every mailbox. Are there other questions about city communications? Because I went on a little bit of a tangent there. Yeah. But generally, I don't need a whole lot of advance notice unless there's a ton of news coming out of the city and there may be space considerations.
So is the plan to start the first recipe in March?
It's the 13th. Let's see. When would you need that by, Amy?
We have a newsletter going out this Friday, and then we have a newsletter going out on the 29th. So the 15th and the 29th, and then April 12th, I believe. No, April. Yeah, April 12th.
Get it done by this Friday, but the 29th, like Taylor Swift, I have a lot going on at the moment. So the 29th might be more realistic, but I'm going to shoot for this Friday because why not get it off the plate? Just launch.
So for this Friday, you need a when? I may have missed that.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not like you want to touch copy.
A picture is helpful. A good person to talk to about who has done a lot of recipes for magazines is Councilmember Sherlock. She actually develops her own recipes, obviously as a chef, and then cooks them and then photographs them. So she may have some hints on how to get that picture.
Yeah, the goal is to start as soon as possible.
Okay.
It might not be tomorrow. I'm gonna try.
All right, sounds like a plan. Anything else, Kim?
No.
Okay. All right. Events and Recreation Coordinator George, it's all yours.
Alrighty, so this was intended to be a discussion, but rather it's going to be an update. As I update you, you'll understand why. So the Lake Bourne Boardwalk ribbon cutting is still to be determined. The work is scheduled to be finished at the end of the month on the boardwalk. However, the work on the fishing dock, which also received some grant money, is done. And so if you go out to the fishing dock, it is now entirely floating, as it should be, and balanced. And we certainly are looking forward to keeping it that way. So kudos to the contracting firm who did that. They did a really great job and worked very quickly and efficiently. So as I said, the work on the boardwalk is scheduled to be wrapped up by the end of March. But the event is somewhat TBD because, one, we want to make sure that the work is actually finished, but also we are saying goodbye to our events, our Parks and Trails planner, Davi De La Cruz, has accepted a job in Lakewood, which will be a much shorter commute for him and his young family. So while we are very, very sad to see him go, we're thrilled about his opportunity. And so that's the event. The ribbon cutting is also somewhat TBD as we determine what staff are going to take up the charge for this particular event. However, the hope is still to do something in early spring, and so should we need to plan something before our next CAC meeting, or needing to plan and the CAC meeting is too late to plan, I would do something via email where I send out and then each of you can reply back with some thoughts, and we'll go from there. And perhaps if there are enough of you who want to plan something, we can form a subcommittee as well. But yeah, so it's TBD, and I will reach out when I have more details. And certainly feel free to send Davi your well wishes. He does know that I was announcing it this evening.
Just out of curiosity, when's his last day?
March 29th, Friday, March 29th.
When they fix the dock, do they guarantee that if somebody fishes off of it, they actually get a fish?
No, they do not. However, they do warranty their work. So if it begins to sink again, I am told that they will come out and make remedies to that.
Yeah, that's great news. They got that done. So, and the park completion, I'm assuming that includes all the landscaping as well.
I don't know the answer to that,
Okay.
but I can certainly find out if you'd like to know.
And as well, the status with the rock garden out.
That again, that's not something I'm aware of, but I can certainly ask
Okay.
if you'd like to know.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions? All right. Thank you for that. So, Commissioner Lee, Earth Day, Earth Month.
Shelley's going to actually address our discussion about Earth Month.
Okay, so Amy, Allison, and I met on Monday to talk about Earth Day, but it's going to be another Earth Month like we did last year, and it's going to be mostly online instead of a, one-day physical in-person event. This year's theme is Planet versus Plastics. So we are going to focus more on reduce, reuse, recycle, composting, protecting our waterways, with less focus on emissions this year. And we have some ideas on how to engage the community, like where they could actually participate and send things in. And we hope to kick this off on April 1st. And if anyone has any ideas or suggestions, please let us know.
Has Ed already talked to you about bottle caps?
I
That
did
seems
not. I
like
didn't know you were doing that, but
good
that's
dovetail.
yeah, for
Heard it.
sure.
Yeah.
How long, Vice Chair Flash, how long are you collecting bottle caps for? I know I have the announcement to go on that you had sent me, but how long?
I would say at least a couple of months.
Okay,
Yeah, we would plan on doing the mural sometime during the summer, so
okay. So it will last through Earth Month?
through April for sure.
Okay.
So we can incorporate that.
Yeah, I'm trying to just think really quickly, is there a way we could solicit contributions, if you will, for your art materials for Earth Month, through Earth Month?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I sent Amy a notice to put in the newsletter that we would be collecting those items at City Hall. But if you want to delay that for a couple of weeks and it can be part of the Earth Month announcement, or we want to do that now, I'm more than happy to
I would think,
pivot in any sort of way.
I would think if you already have a plan to announce it, and then we can just remind in all of our stuff and all of the Earth Month stuff efforts.
And just add to it, like piggyback off of that and include all of their things.
Or do you want to change the wording just slightly to say in honor of Earth Month, or Earth Month, Earth Day celebration, or whatever, or just tie it all together somehow? Yeah, absolutely.
And just to add to that, in looking at the calendar, we wanted to incorporate the cemetery work party, and so I am actually going to launch Earth Month on Wednesday, March 27th, to launch it a little early to give folks a heads up and push that or promote the cemetery work party. And I'd also like to note that the staff are working on reviving the Weed Warriors. Those were groups of folks who went around cleaning up invasive plant species in our parks. A lot of folks are interested in cleaning up our parks, but our maintenance staff does a great job of keeping things clean. However, our surface water management team could really use a lot of support with the invasive plant species. So we are reviving Weed Warriors as part of our Earth Month effort.
Thank you. All right, back to Coordinator George.
Well, in this case, I'm going to hand this over. Christian, Connie, and I met on Friday, March 8th to start talking about Newcastle Days, big picture, planning about what we'd like to keep, what we'd like to modify, start thinking of big picture questions that need to be addressed. For example, how many booths can we accommodate on the grass realistically? So I'm going to hand this over to Connie, who will discuss and have you ask questions and offer comment.
Sure, thanks, Amy. So we did have quite a bit of discussion about what we wanted to keep from prior years that was really popular and successful, what we wanted to modify, and what new items we wanted to add for this year being the 30th anniversary. So one of the main items for modification was, we know we got a lot of feedback last year about the art booths being on the tennis courts, and that might not have been the best place, both for flow of attendees to even know that there were groups back there and kind of the awareness, but then also the full sun of the tennis courts itself, and that it might not be the most comfortable space. So we do have the opportunity to have, I believe it's 10, right, Amy? 10 additional booths on the grass. So
I don't know the exact number,
Oh, okay.
but that's one thing I have to work with our staff to figure out exactly how many booths we can accommodate. But the impression was that we could fit more than what we had.
Okay. Okay, we're not sure how many, but so yeah, we wanted to open it up to potentially even have like an artist row of a group in a row if we could. So wanted to post to the group if there are any ideas on what we could do on the tennis courts instead. It does sound like there's a limitation of having food on the tennis court because it can damage the surface. So we're attempting to brainstorm what alternative we could use over there, or not use the space at all if it's just not a good space. So wanted to open that up for thoughts if anyone had any, or just plant the seed to brainstorm as we're thinking about it.
So I do have a question. Is it going to be resurfaced, or has it been resurfaced?
It is going to be resurfaced, but my understanding is that it is not going to happen in 2024.
Okay.
However, the no food on the tennis court rule still stands.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Okay. I just know that with the art fair last year, it got marked up from people's tents and things like that. So if it was going to be resurfaced, then there would have to be a little bit more consideration around not doing something that's going to at least temporarily mark up the tennis court. So, okay.
Okay, but maybe just if anyone wants to brainstorm that or let us know any ideas that come to mind in the meantime, feel free to share.
Would the Scallies have any interest in hosting their pickleball tournament on the actual day? Because they have been hosting it the Friday before, or so not sure if that's for any reason other than tennis court availability.
That is a great idea. Yeah, I think we can definitely ask them. Okay, additional things that we discussed, kind of mentioned previously, really wanting to tie Newcastle Days closely to the 30th anniversary. So that's where we will recognize the 30 key players. The birthday cake is in progress. Keeping a theme, that kind of as the theme is the anniversary, and trying to get as many of our vendors to participate as we can. So more to come there. For keeping things the same, we liked where the beer and wine tent is located, so didn't want to move that to a new location for this year. That worked. But we heard the feedback about the coffee cart, so we're exploring those options.
The lack of the coffee cart, you mean?
That we would like to have one, yes. That there should have been one, and so we're exploring that. Another question to pose to the group, we are curious as to if we should keep the junk chime this year, what people's thoughts are of the junk chime, whether that is something that we could explore alternatives of, or if we think we should keep that. The junk chime. Do you know what that is? No.
I didn't have an opportunity to visit the junk chime booth, but I heard a lot about it, like as if it were successful, or whatever is the right word for whatever he had going on there.
What did you hear?
I heard people say that it was really cool.
Oh, okay.
But maybe that's just because it was just all repurposed junk. But again, I didn't see it, so I don't know what it was. But yeah, I heard several people say it was really cool.
I have not heard any feedback the last couple of years, but the first year we had it, it was really popular. So, and people enjoyed interacting with it.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I think an interactive activity is important. There is a cost associated with the junk chime, so just wanted to make sure we were thinking about it and posing the question, as it's not a default. But yeah,
I would say if there was something else that presented itself that was a similar price point, I don't think it's as dearly held as like the petting zoo and the ponies. So, it would be worthy consideration, but I think if it's in the budget and it's what we have and there's not something else that's a competitor that's pressing, but I do love the idea of having something that's interactive, that's artistic, that, I think that's fun.
I think the idea was that we were just, so it is in the budget. Just looking at what has been done 2019, but then also 2022, 23, and thinking, okay, yes, there are certain staples that we always have, but should we start considering mixing things up so that it doesn't get old? And the space the junk chime went into the past couple years, it's a really nice space next to the upper picnic shelter above the playgrounds. So it gets a lot of traffic there. It is right where the kids are on the playground, and the robotics team, we moved up there from the tennis courts last year, and that worked out really, really well for them. So that's the space that we're talking about, is that it's a nice flat grassy area next to the upper picnic shelter by the playground.
So I guess I would also say that if that was a space that art vendors could be, then I would maybe say meh on the junk chime, and if there wasn't other spaces within the park, that we could repurpose that space and have vendors there.
Yeah, I think the full shade spaces are kind of a hot commodity because there aren't.
Fight you.
Yeah, there aren't as many of them, and that
Unless
one,
it's raining.
at least historically, has been in a full shade space. So yeah, definitely want to. I think about it a little bit.
Another idea is if we didn't have the junk chime and artistic vendors could go in that space, and there were some who were maybe potentially on the fence about affording renting, I would say offering the incentive that if you provide an interactive art thing for people to do, we would waive the fee for your booth. This is just an idea. So, because then we're not spending the money on the junk chime, so essentially we're subsidizing the art vendors that provide interactive things if we want to keep interactive stuff.
We can probably figure something out, but we have to be mindful. We can't waive fees. But I'm sure we could, like we do with the high school robotics teams, and there are ways to invite people in to do activities at a cost-effective way for them. But we can't waive vendor fees.
Fair enough. That all tracks, but it's mostly just like the underlying idea of this is a way to maybe bring in people who would offer interactive, fun, artistic things to people. And we would be saving the cost of the junk chime if that's what we decide to do.
Going back to the whole tennis court discussion, it seems like whatever goes there that needs interaction or needs people to be there doesn't work, or doesn't work as effectively as it should. So just as we think about what needs to go there, I think that's something we definitely need to consider. Something like putting the tournament there, right? That's a great use for that. But it was reminded that the robotics team used to be there. When they moved, they had a much better space. So just something to think about.
It's just not a viable space.
No.
For anything other than playing tennis or pickleball.
Yeah.
It's okay not to use every single space in the park. It is a space. We can think about utilizing it, but we don't have to utilize it.
Anybody know how big it is off the top of their head? Ballpark figure? Ha 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 ha.
I think it's 160 feet. It's 100 and something feet by 60 feet, maybe. Does that sound about? I'm 108.
think it's a little bigger than that. Did you have something in mind, or just?
I do. We don't need to go there now. I will do some stuff and come back to you all with this idea.
Okay.
Great. And then the last thing we wanted to pose a question to the group. So in 2019, we had Captain Marvel and Captain America come to Newcastle Days. We just wanted to pose, do we think it's fun to have characters dress up and come? Is that something we should bring back? If so, how would we use them? We just wanted to pose those questions.
I remember in 2019, we did not feel like we got the value that we'd hoped for out of the characters, that it wasn't the draw, and that, yeah, it just didn't have the interactivity. I would rather see like a Disney sing-along or something on the stage, or, something that was more interactive than kind of a one-on-one thing. Yeah.
We used to have a fire truck and or an EMS truck in the parking lot with fire people letting kids put on equipment and showing them around and stuff, and that was always really popular. And I don't know if that's anything that's feasible still these days.
Yeah, we did that last year too,
Oh,
the
did we?
Tetra truck. Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
too?
Yeah, so I think that's in the plan, to invite them back and do that again. The truck, there's like two different spaces, sorry, I know we had a map of it, but the fire truck was in the parking lot, and then there were a couple of things down by the car show as well. So I think we're playing.
Good to hear. Yes, they do. They like to put on the hat.
Okay.
And then are we guaranteed to have the car show at the same time as well?
Yes, I just heard from the coordinators today that they are looking forward to coordinating the car show in partnership with us. So yes, the car show is coming back.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, no character actors, easy, out. More to come then. I think we're having more kind of follow-up sessions, doing some research on our end, and obviously Amy's hearing back from folks already. So more to come on this one, but we're really excited, especially to combine efforts with the 30th anniversary piece too.
Yeah, and just a request, if there's any selling points that we can bring up with businesses as we go out and try and get sponsorships, just let us know. So different from last year, if there's anything new planned or things we want to highlight, other than the 30th year, of course.
It'll be 78 degrees and sunny.
The Costco cake, don't forget.
Oh, the Costco cake, exactly, yeah. All right, anything else? No. So the last item we have on the agenda is our CAC work plan check-in, and I didn't bring it with me, but next meeting we'll have a copy of the work plan in front of us to make sure that we can just review it quickly, look it over, see if there's anything that we can think of that we're missing that we want to add to what we're doing. We just want to make sure that the work plan is set at a pretty summary level, and so we want to make sure that we're in everything we do, we're capturing the essence of the work plan. So if anybody has any comments now or can think of anything that we are missing potentially, as you think about what's in the work plan. Do anything? Okay. All right. Additional public comment.
We do not have any public comment from our audience.
Okay. Couple things planning calendar. Next meeting is April 10th at 6 o'clock. If you're not able to make it, please let Chairman Stix or I know. And then lastly, for those that had community reports, if you could send me a written response for those reports so we can include it in the notes for the meeting. anything else from anyone that they want to bring up at this point? Going once? Going twice?
I'm not saying I won't be here yet, but that meeting is right in the middle of Hazelwood Renton School District spring break.
Got it. Okay. Same as Seattle. Okay.
Again.
Okay. So if there are any conflicts, if you could let us know as quickly as possible. So if we have to move the meeting in order to have a quorum, then or incorporate everybody's attendance as best we can, then let's do that sooner as opposed to later. So, I mean, if we can accommodate that. Okay, nothing else? All right, meeting is adjourned.